Some places don't look dangerous. They're just remote enough that if something happens to you out there, nobody is coming. Tonight, I'm taking you to 3 of those places. A ball field behind a dead school, a forest with a name that means exactly what you think it means, and a mountain hotel where something was living in the dark, long before anyone built a road up to it. Every one of these stories starts the same way. Someone thought they were alone. They weren't. Stick around for the last one. What they found in that cave still doesn't have an explanation. Let's get into it. Back in high school, my friends and I had one place that belonged to us. A baseball field behind an abandoned grade school, tucked against the tree line on the edge of town. Everyone figured the town was too broke to tear it down. Maybe that was true. But it wasn't really about the money. It was about the location. Nobody wanted that land. It sat right up against the woods, far enough out that the streetlights gave up before they got there. That's exactly why we loved it. Nobody bothered us out there. Cops rolled through the school sometimes, chasing off the kids who tagged the walls, but they never came near the field. For a few of us, that mattered more than you'd think. My friend Tim in particular. His mom called the police on him constantly for anything she could think of. But out at that field, none of that could reach him. We spent whole summers on those rusted bleachers doing nothing.
I told you it wasn't there. No way, you didn't. He's right, he really did.
But there was one thing about it that always sat wrong with me. There was an old lamppost near the bleachers, one the town had clearly forgotten to take down because it still worked. It threw this dim, sick orange light across a 10-foot radius, and past that, nothing. Just black tree line stretching in every direction. Whenever I got too deep in my own head, I'd stare into that dark and think about how easy it would be for someone to stand right at the edge of it and watch us. We'd never know. I still wonder how many times someone did. One night at the start of summer, my friend Johnny and I were supposed to meet at the field. I got there first. He never showed. I waited almost 40 minutes, texted him a few times, got nothing back, and eventually the quiet got to me enough that I left. I remember jogging back through the woods instead of walking, for reasons I couldn't fully explain. He never texted back that night, or the next morning. By that afternoon, my mom was asking if I'd seen him. Within a couple of days, half the town knew he was missing. Search parties went out for weeks. Nothing ever turned up. No body, no sign. To this day, nothing. I told myself he ran off, like he always said he would. But deep down, I knew he wouldn't leave without telling us. He would have left something behind, hidden on those bleachers where only we'd think to look. About a month later, I went back. Alone. I was angry enough at the world that I didn't care what was out there. When I came out of the tree line, there were people on the bleachers. For a second, I thought it was my friends. It wasn't. I'd never seen these people before, and in all our years going out there, we'd never seen anyone else use that field. 3 of them sat completely still like they were posed. But it was the 4th one that got under my skin. He was dancing, skipping around the bleachers, grinning, moving with this loose, wrong kind of joy that didn't match anything about where we were or what time it was. And the worst part, he looked familiar. Not in a way I could place. It was like passing a stranger's face in a dream, that certainty that you know them with no memory of where from. I got out of there as fast and as quiet as I could. When I got back to my car, instinct told me to leave immediately. I didn't. I drove past the school parking lot, and in the back corner I saw a car I recognized instantly. It was Johnny's. The headlights turned on. I reversed out of there so fast I nearly hit the curb, and I didn't look back. I told my friends. They agreed it was strange, but nobody wanted to think about it too hard. I stopped going to the field. In late July, missing Johnny more than usual, I pulled out an old yearbook to look through some memories. And that's when I found him. A janitor standing in the background of a sports photo. Same face, same hair, the dancing man from the bleachers. I went to the police. I could tell they thought I was chasing shadows, but they ran a background check anyway. It came back empty. No history. Even his social security number led nowhere. It was like the man didn't exist on paper at all. Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and just known something was wrong with them, even if you couldn't explain why? Drop your story in the comments. Near the end of that summer, I ran into him again. A Dunkin' Donuts, early morning, half asleep until I looked up and saw him standing there. Same face, unmistakable. He saw me too, and he smiled. He rushed out the door, and a car was already waiting for him at the curb. I chased him outside, but they were gone before I got close. Except this time I saw the plate. 4-pack 207. It was Johnny's car, repainted, which is why I hadn't recognized it the first time. But the plate was the same. I never saw it, or him, again. I never got answers. I never got a body. All I have is a plate number I still remember and a field I never went back to. Rest easy, Johnny, wherever you actually ended up. If you thought the abandoned ball field was unsettling, the next place is far worse. This time there wasn't just one person watching. Some places get their name from a joke. Tate's Hell isn't one of those places. The story goes that a settler named C.B. Tate wandered into that stretch of Florida swampland in the 1800s and never found his way back out. People say the land was cursed after that. My friends and I didn't believe in curses. We were engineering interns fresh off weeks of rocket data, and all we wanted was a clear sky and some peace and quiet. We found the peace and quiet. We did not keep it. It was the summer of 2024. Me, Jake, Sam, and Marcus were interning at the Kennedy Space Center, and we'd mapped out a clearing deep inside Tate's Hell State Forest for some late-night stargazing. We were staying at an Airbnb near Apalachicola, about 30 miles from the forest's edge, which felt close enough to still call it a safety net. After a brutal 7-hour drive down from the Space Center, we dropped our bags at the cabin and headed straight back out. The last stretch into the forest was rough. Narrow dirt roads swallowed by pine trees, wetlands pressing in on both sides, no cell signal anywhere. We kept 2 cars in contact with walkie-talkies, their static crackling every time someone kept the button held too long. We reached the clearing around 2 in the morning. The sky out there was unreal. No light pollution for miles. Stars packed so dense it barely looked real.
Look at that.
We set up blankets and a telescope and let ourselves forget for about 15 minutes that we were in the middle of nowhere.
See it.
Then Sam's voice cracked through the walkie-talkie. "Yo, you see that? Headlights." My stomach dropped before I even turned around. Out there, 40 miles from the nearest town at 2 in the morning, in a forest that size, nobody just happens to be passing through. We flashed our headlights. 3 quick bursts. An old pickup, rusted out, rolled to a stop about 100 yards off. No wave, no horn, just stillness. Then shadows stepped out of it. 2, maybe 3 figures, hard to count with the glare in our eyes. They didn't move. They just stood there watching us. That's when we heard it. Voices low and garbled, drifting out of the swamp behind them. Not close enough to understand, just close enough to know they were real. We didn't wait to find out. We packed up fast and drove a mile down a side trail to another clearing, agreeing over the walkies that if those headlights showed up again, we were done for the night, straight back to the cabin. 5 minutes in, Marcus's voice came.
Keep pushing it, they're right on us! Faster, I can't lose them now! They're falling back!
Then an engine revved, hard and sudden, unmistakably a threat, not an accident. Sam didn't wait for a vote. "Get us out, now!" We scrambled into the cars, Jake and I in mine, Marcus and Sam behind us. I floored it down a trail meant for maybe 15 miles an hour, roots and branches clawing at the underside of the car. Those headlights stayed locked onto us in the mirror the entire way, high beams blinding, never falling back. We were 40 miles from anyone. 4 interns, no weapons, no service, and somebody behind us who wanted us to know they were there. For one brief stretch, the trail curved and the headlights disappeared behind us. I actually let myself hope for a second. Then they were back, steady, unhurried, like they weren't even trying to catch us, like they knew they didn't have to. We hit a fork. I swerved left, praying it led out. It did. The dirt gave way to pavement. A faded highway sign appeared out of the dark, and when I checked the mirror again, the headlights were gone. Marcus pulled up beside us on the shoulder, and we just sat there, engines idling, staring into a dark that had gone completely silent. The drive back to the cabin was dead quiet. We locked every door behind us, and even then, it didn't feel like enough. We never figured out who they were. We never went back. And to this day, none of us will even mention Tate's Hell unless someone else brings it up first. But when I'm on a dark road late at night now, some part of me is always a little more awake than it should be. If this one got under your skin, you're exactly who this channel is for. I bring you 3 true horror stories like this every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday, from places that actually exist. If you enjoy realistic horror, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In December of 2023, I took a 3-week trip to Japan to visit a hotel my family has owned for generations, a traditional inn built into the hillside above the Daishoji River, near a small mountain town called Kaga Onsen. The land around it has been considered sacred for over 2,000 years. My father once told me that when the hotel was being built, the crew uncovered old stone blocks and pillars, remnants of a shrine dating back to somewhere around the 9th century. I hadn't stayed there in over 15 years. Part of me wanted to relive it. The other part wanted to go looking for whatever was left of those ruins my father mentioned, somewhere in the forest below the hotel. I flew into Kanazawa, rented a car, and drove up through heavy snow, a trip that should have taken an hour but ended up taking 2. By the time I reached the hotel, it was almost 8 at night, and the place was completely empty. December isn't tourist season out there. No staff, no guests, just me, alone in a hillside inn built on land people had considered sacred for 2,000 years. I grabbed a key from behind the front counter, let myself into a room, and spent the night alone in a building meant for dozens of people. The next morning, I headed into the forest below the hotel. The snow was deep enough to soak through my boots within minutes, and I lost my bearings faster than I expected. I checked my phone. No signal. I'd been walking for close to an hour with no clear sense of which direction I'd come from. Ahead of me was a steep hill. I figured climbing it might give me a better vantage point to find my way back, so I started up. About halfway, I noticed what looked like the remains of an old path cutting through the overgrowth to my left. I followed it. It was rough going, half swallowed by dead branches, but it led me most of the way to the top before it simply ended. Just stopped, like whoever made it never finished, or never came back. That's when I saw it. A small opening in the hillside, tucked into the vegetation a few meters above where the path had died out. A cave entrance mostly hidden with just enough clearance for me to fit through. I clicked on my flashlight and stepped in. The first thing that hit me was the smell. Thick, animal, almost like a zoo enclosure. The kind of smell that makes your body tense up before your brain even understands why. The first chamber was small, empty, except for a rectangular stone block sitting dead center on the floor. I kept moving. The tunnel opened into a much larger chamber, with 2 more passages branching off into the dark that I didn't explore. On the far side sat another stone block, this one hollow, and inside it, unmistakably, were human bones. Surrounding them was a long piece of corroded steel and a scatter of old bronze coins, each with a square hole punched through the center. I stood there for a long moment, just staring. Then, without really thinking about it, I reached down and picked up one of the coins. That's when I heard the crash. What would you have done in that exact second? Tell me in the comments. It came from deep inside one of the side tunnels, and with it, the smell got stronger, thicker, almost suffocating. Some instinct made me grab the length of steel off the ground, the remains of what looked like an old blade, and hold it in front of me like it could actually protect me. Then came the smell of smoke, threading under the animal stench. And underneath that, a slow, rhythmic thumping, deep in the tunnel, like something beating against stone in a pattern too steady to be an accident. That was enough. I bolted. I don't know if it was adrenaline or something else, but I swear the whole cave seemed to shake as I ran for the entrance. I dropped the blade somewhere on the slope outside and didn't stop to grab it. I ran until the trees thinned out and I heard a car pass somewhere below me. I flagged it down, soaked, freezing, and clearly not okay. The driver hesitated before letting me in, which honestly, I understood. He told me I was 4 miles from the hotel. I went back only long enough to grab my bag and get in my car. I couldn't stay another night in that building, not after that. I drove straight back to Kanazawa. The story doesn't end there. When the hotel reopened in February, my father called me. Someone had broken in through a first-floor window overnight. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was damaged, except for the door to the exact room I'd stayed in, smashed open with what looked like a blunt metal object. I don't know if it's connected to what I found in that cave. I don't know what I even found in that cave. But I know I'm never setting foot in that hotel again, because whatever was waiting in that cave didn't stay there. 3 places. 3 groups of people who thought they were alone. None of them really were. If one of these got to you, let me know which one in the comments. Next time, I'm bringing you a story about a stranger who knocks on your door at 2 a.m. claiming your car's on fire, and what happens if you actually open it. Lock your doors, check your windows, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.